lekulam, and welcome to our 11th class on the book of Zohar. We're still in the prologue, and we're gonna be in the prologue for a long time because we're dissecting little by little and making sure that we get as much as possible um, the understanding of each of the items in each of the articles inside the prologue. And last time we were talking about the letters Tav and the letter Resh, and we also talk about the letter Dalet, even though we're not there yet, the letter Dalet. And we talked then about the letter Shin, and how the letter Shin is where everything stops and nothing goes to Resh and Tav, because those letters are basically really close to the forces of Tuna, to the forces of impure forces, what is called Elokim Acherim. And we will now be talking about the letters Kuf, Resh, and in here we're gonna see more about this, how these impure forces or the evil side actually is formed from these letters as well, or are fed. Basically, impure forces are fed from this letter. If we, because of the qualities of them, if we use this letter in the wrong way, right, we can also help continue breaking the system. So let's continue with this, with our study. And as with every lesson, we will start by scanning these names of God that have been filled with other names of God. Make sure you scan them from, if you're looking at the screen, if the screen is in front of you, you're gonna read them from, or scan them from your right to left, okay? And what you're gonna be doing is not concentrating on reading them, just concentrate on each letter, scan them, and then when you finish, we will do the prayer of before we start the Zohar. A prayer from the ayin, to be recited before the study of the Zohar. Ruler of the universe and master of all masters, the Father of mercy and forgiveness, we thank you, our God and the God of all fathers, by bowing down and kneeling, that you brought us closer to your Torah and your holy work, and you enable us to take part in the secrets of your holy Torah. How worthy are we that you grant us with such a big favor, which is the reason we plead before you, that you will forgive and acquit all our sins, and that they should not bring separation between you and us. And may it be your will before you, our God and the God of our fathers, that you will awaken and prepare our hearts to love and revere you. And may you listen to our utterances and open our closed hearts to the hidden studies of your Torah. And may our study be pleasant before your place of honor, as the aroma of sweet incense. And may you emanate to us light from the source of our soul to all our being. And may the sparks of the holy servants through which you reveal your wisdom to the world shine. May their merit and the merit of their fathers and the merit of their Torah and holiness support us, so we shall not stumble through our study. And by their merit enlighten our eyes in our learning, as it is stated by King David, the sweet singer of Israel. Open my eyes so that I will see wonders from your Torah. For the Lord gives wisdom, from his mouth comes knowledge and understanding. May the utterances of my mouth and the thoughts of my heart find favor before you, God my strength and my Redeemer. Okay, so we are now going to be reading from the letters of Rabbi Hamuna Saba. This is in the prologue of the book of Zohar. And what we're going to be reading in here is about the letters Kuf and Resh. But if you saw the previous class, you know you already familiarized with this diagram. And what you need to understand that we're still down here in what is called Malchut of Atziluth, with the letters Kuf, Resh, Shin, and Tav. Okay, and these letters are basically the letters that are closer. This red bar here represents the forces of Tumah. These okay, let me see if I can. These forces down here, the forces of Tumah, are basically feeding themselves from the little light that they receive from these letters. And if they attach themselves to these letters, what they're gonna do basically is to create a system in which man is not capable of changing its nature from negative to altruistic. And in the previous lesson, I talked about how sometimes we are studying certain, I would say, certain variations or philosophies that have the word Kabbalah in it, and we think, you know, because it has the word Kabbalah and it has the Hebrew letters and it has everything, it is Kabbalah for real. And in reality, they're not. They're mixed with Greek magic, and they're mixed with Egyptian magic. They're mixed with a whole bunch of stuff that Kabbalah doesn't talk about. Even though Kabbalah those things can be explained using Kabbalah, it does not mean that they are what Kabbalah teaches. And this is something very important that we need to understand. In fact, I am not promoting a book, okay? But I found a book that explains that about understanding the Zohar better. And this book is by a group called Bnei Baruch in Israel, and it's a very simple book. It has some of the articles of Baruch HaSulam in order to understand the Zohar and the message of the Zohar deeper. And I love, you know, that they made a compilation of those introduction to the Zohar. Let's see what the articles are. It has actually many articles. It has one man in one heart. The outer, what's the meaning of outer, and what the outer is, why the outer is inner. The wisdom of the Zohar, the hidden treasure, the many layers of the Zohar. What is the Sulam commentary, which is the one that we're studying from, the Sulam commentary, the ladder from Baruch HaSulam. And it has the writing of Baruch HaSulam, the necessity to engage in the Zohar, and many other articles that explain basically in a simple way what the Zohar is all about. And that's this book right here. It's called Unlocking the Zohar by one of my teachers, Michael Lakeman. Okay, and just put it here so you can write it down. Unlocking the Zohar by Michael Lakeman. Very good book. Very good book. Okay, so if you have the chance to grab one copy, make sure you do so. I'm not affiliated with Bnei Baruch, by the way. I did study Kabbalah with them for a while, but I'm not affiliated with them. I'm not promoting their book because they told me to promote it. Okay, just I found a great book and I want to share it with you because it's a good book. Just like sometimes when people ask me which Zohar should I use, I go like, for now in English, this is the best version when it comes to understanding according to what the Zohar with the Baal HaSulam commentary is all about. Is this one. There's another one, another Zohar that came out from an academic guy, you know, I think it's Matt, something like that, his last name, and that one is really good as well. Kind of expensive though, all right, but it's still really good. There are many versions. Just if you have any question about Zohar versions, let me know. Okay. All right. So we're gonna continue our study. This time we're gonna be with the letter Kuf and Resh. And item 25. We already read that one, right? He said, for the aforesaid follows that whoever wishes to tell a lie will succeed in his first tells the truth, as a base of which the lie will then grow and start to act. And this is because the letter Shin is a letter of truth in which the patriarchs has been united. These patriarchs are, see here, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. They're also Chesed, Geburah, and Tifaret. In which the patriarch has been united, for the three lines in the writing of the letter Shin signify the three patriarchs to designate the Sephirot properties of Chesed, Geburah, and Tifaret. So the letters Kuf and Resh, they indicate the evil side, okay? The Sitra, and they form the impure side called Kar, which is a Kuf and a Resh, which means cold. And the reason it's called, cold is because it resembles a lack of life. There's no warmth. Like life is usually warm, and this is cold, so there's a lack of life. And the reason they're called basically cold and the impure side is because they bring their sustenance from Malchut, and it turns the living waters of Malchut into ice. And in order to create an opportunity for them to exist, these letters attach then to the letter Shin right here, right? The letter Shin in the Malchut of Atziluth, which represent also Yesod in the Zeir Anpin of Malchut the Atziluth. They attach themselves to that letter Shin to themselves. So they attach it to themselves. In this way, they create a combination of letters that are called Kesher. And that's another. Remember, we talked about Echad, and Achar. Now we have another word, which is Kuf, Shin, Resh, Kesher. And Kesher means a knot or like a tie, tying a knot, something that is bound, okay? And in this way, when they're bound, they're tied as a knot, they get their strength and survival from the light that the evil forces get their strength and light from that connection that is happening between these three letters. The light of Chesed, Geburah, Tifaret of Binah, which she received from Yesod the Zeir Anpin, okay, which is going to be around here, creates a new ending in Malchut, a new vessel, a new kli, a new desire to receive the light that is called 100 blessings from the Zeir Anpin of Atziluth. And since Chesed, Geburah, Tifaret are called the patriarchs, and the light that passes to Malchut is coming from them, the letter Shin designate them as truth, okay? So we're gonna have Chesed, Geburah, Tifaret, which is a Dalet, Hey, and Vav of Atziluth, and they're gonna come all the way down to the Malchut of Atziluth, and in there is going to stop in Yesod of the Zeir Anpin of Malchut of Atziluth. Remember Shaddai means basically that is stop, right? It's stop. That is enough, not lower than that. As we mentioned before, by eliminating the sharp angle that we're gonna see here in the letter Dalet, the letter Dalet becomes Resh when the impure forces eliminate that sharp angle. In this way, they convert Echad to Acher, and this way they steal Yesod of the pure Malchut that is designated by the letter Shin and attach it to itself, right? So with the letter Shin, they build a Yesod of the impure Malchut, okay? That leads to a very strong connection of the impure forces to the pure ones. They are like vampires when they do that, okay? And this is the secret why as well, you know, this is a high level, but this is how in our levels down here in the branches, there is and if you're studying the Parsha, the lessons of the Parsha weekly that I have, you're gonna see that there's an emphasis. I'm using in there the commentaries of Rabbi Yaakov Haseira, and there's an emphasis on the taking care, the protection, the paying attention to the brit, to the covenant of the circumcision, because Yesod is symbolism for these upper realm, upper forces that have to do with procreation. And in us, that is manifested in our sexual organs, and that's why it is important for us to make sure that we take care of not doing certain actions that will feed the evil forces, because that's how they feed. And that's why you see these I would say legends or parables or symbolism or tales that we use in Kabbalah in order for people to understand what it is all about. And that's why we introduce characters as Lilith and Samael, and how Lilith basically uses these type of forces in order to create demons and all that. Okay, so this is a secret. In studying this letter, this is the secret of it. Okay, why it is important for us in the physical realm to take care of that as well. And that's the reason when they are created, because they come from human seed, and from that basically Shin in the human body, they are basically in the form of humans. And because they're getting that life from the Kuf, Kuf means monkey, they resemble human beings, as we mentioned in the previous class. So that's why a lot of people, when they see ghosts, demons, and things like that, how did it look like? And they describe basically like something with 2 arms, legs, and things like that. Okay. Now, also the letter Shin, the letter Shin, you know, they build the Yes of the impure forces, and this, like I mentioned before, leads to a very strong connection of the impure forces to the pure ones, the impure forces to the pure ones. The clinging is called kesher, and kesher is the reciprocal tie joining pure and impure forces, a knot that is not easily severed, and it's not easy to break. For that reason, for the letters wishing for the world to be created with them, they, or basically these letters that wanted the creator to use them to create the world, when the creator didn't use them because they didn't have the properties to help man to correct the world. Now the letter Shin thinks that the light of Hasidim, which brings the souls to the goal of creation, right? Because it has, you know, these 3 lines, these 3 levels of the patriarchs. It has the potential to receive the Or Hasidim as well. So the letter Shin thinks that this life of Hasidim, this life of mercy, will bring the soul to the goal of creation, which is to correct everything. But because of the letter Kuf and Resh, which create the word Kar, which means cold, and because of this letter do not desire the light, or receiving the light of mercy for them is not important, because the light of mercy means to be stole and is pure. They receive only for their own pleasure. The letter Shin wasn't chosen as well. Okay, so that's why this is happening. So what we need to take from this is that in Malchut of Atziluth, this here, Malchut of Atziluth, these are basically kind of like egoistic desires still in there, that the evil forces, the forces of Tumah, represented by this red bar down here, can fit from them and can actually go up there and kind of like corrupt the system in order to live or suck the light out of them. Okay. Now, the letter tzadi. Subsequently, the letter tzadi, so you can see it. Subsequently, the letter tzadi appeared before the Creator and said, Master of the world, you should create the world with me, for tzaddikim, righteous ones, are marked by me. You, who is called a tzaddik, a righteous, are also recorded within me, for you are righteous and you love righteousness. Therefore, my properties are suitable to create the world by the Creator. The Creator answered, tzaddik, you are truly righteous, but you must remain concealed and not be revealed to the extent required for the world to be created by you, so as to not give the world an excuse. The concealment of the letter tzadi is necessary, for first came the letter nun, which was then joined with the letter yod from the Creator's holy name, who stood above it as a mask of the bond between the Creator and his creations, mounted the letter nun and joined it on its right hand side, thereby creating the letter tzadi. So here we see that the Creator answered, you are truly righteous, but you must remain concealed and not be revealed to the extent required for the world to be created by you, so as not to give the world an excuse. The concealment of this letter tzadi, it's a mystery, right? But this is the reason. The reason for the necessity of concealing the letter tzadi is to make it suitable for whatever is going to be created later in the world, or whatever was created in the world afterward, when the Creator created the world, to make sure that Adam, meaning the Zeir Anpin, in it, let's put it this way. The letter tzadi was not suitable to be used to create the world, because it needed to be hidden. It needed to be hidden in order for whenever Adam was created, in order to be created back to back. And I know this is kind of like really advanced for some people, back to back, but basically there's no, when we say that Ava Ve'ima, especially when we're talking about Ava Ve'ima being back to back, there's no connection, there's no coupling. If there's no coupling, then there's no light coming down. But when they're face to face, then there's a light that is coming to the lower ones. Okay, that's how creation is. In the meantime, back to back means there's nothing, they're not seeing face to face, but when they see themselves face to face, then the light of Chokmah can come down to the lower ones by the light of Hasidim, meaning the light of Chokmah will go to the lower ones by the light that comes from Bina, which is the light of mercy. Okay, that's basically why this letter needed to be concealed. And when Adam was created, Adam represents basically a Zeir Anpin, right? And he created in Adam two kind of personas or parsufins. It was male and female. And this, when he says that it was created male and female, means that it was created back to back. Okay, it wasn't face to face like when they were separated. And this is why the letter Yod stand in its back to the back of the letter Nun, both of them facing opposite directions. But also we're gonna see that the letter Yod turns upward, while the letter Nun is upside down. It's basically turning downward. And let's see how that looks. So this is the letter tzadi. All right, let me copy and Paste it. This is the letter tzadi, and what we're gonna see is the letter tzadi. Put it bigger. The letter tzadi is basically the letter nun and yod, but the yod is looking upward while the letter nun is upside down. So what you're gonna see is basically that they're also, this is the nun and the yod is in the back, and opposite way, let's put it that way. And it says also that the Creator said, in the future I will revoke the relationship of back to back, and I will join them face to face. In another place shall you so rise as such, but not at the beginning of creation. For in the beginning of creation you must be concealed back to back by the letters nun and yod, for this form indicates that the light in you is concealed. Therefore, the world cannot be created with you. And then the letter tzadi left. Okay. And tzadi came to basically suggest that the Creator should be using her because she has properties that can be useful. The letter, it says, that tzadi suggests that the world should be created because of its properties. When this letter saw that the Tov request was turned down by the Creator due to the heavy loss and because of the letter shin, due to the clinging of these impure forces, he thought that, hey, I'm righteous. I have nothing to do with these forces that are, optimal forces, of impure forces, or anything like that. So he thought, I'm a better candidate for that. And this letter also contains a seal of the Creator, right? The Tav and the Shin are considered, seal. But this is why tzadi say, you know what? I am righteous. I am also a seal and a mark of connection with the Creator by the circumcision, by in this way making a place of sivug, a place of contact with the Creator, and I can actually repel and make a connection that can repel these forces. So maybe it's me that the Creator needs to use. The Creator is called Bina. Okay, so the Creator is Bina over here. And this Sephirah is also marked by this letter tzadi. Okay, because it says, that he is righteous as just as like Zeir Anpin, right? Since the upper part of Bina of the word of Atziluth, Abba Ve'ima, corresponds to the male and female parts, just like Zeir Anpin of Malchut in the bottom, we go back to, so this is Abba Ve'ima, and we got Zeir Anpin of Malchut here. So this is male, female, and Abba Ve'ima. Abba means father, Ima means mother. Always remember, we're using these terms, but that doesn't mean that they're like really personas out there called that way. And what we call the Creator is a lot of gods or anything like that. And it's one system, one God, and the system is one together all the way down. Even science is trying to understand that there's one, basically this theory that wants to explain everything. They can get that oneness in that theory, to explain the oneness of everything in that theory, everything to be explained. So in Kabbalah, we know that we have different parts in order for us to understand how the system is working, but in reality, it's only one system. All this is how the vessel is perceiving the light, how the creature is perceiving the light of the Creator. This is the different levels or different ways that we perceive. For example, let's say that the light is or mother, right? I see my mother as my mother, but also I see her as a woman. I also see her as a sister, of somebody else. I see her as a daughter of somebody else. Different, same person, different aspects of that person. And this is what you need to see here. Same system, same light, but different ways that the creature is perceiving that light in order to perform the proper correction of transforming egoistic desire or eliminating the breath of shame and converting it to altruistic desire. That's all we're starting here, okay? All right. So the creator called Bina is also marked by the letter tzadi. And the upper part of Bina, which is Abba Ve'ima, correspond to the male and female parts of Zeir Anpin of Atziluth. When Avi are forever joined, so to send down this light of mercy to the lower ones, this light goes all the way down to Zeir Anpin, and it's basically siphoned in that part called Yesod, which is represented by the letter tzadi as well. Okay, tzadi is the sephirah of Yesod of Zeir Anpin, as we see here. When Yesod joins with Malchut, it is defined as tzaddik, righteousness. You have a tzadi and the kuf, right? Tzaddik, righteousness. For the 9 sephirot of Zeir Anpin are from Yod, right? Yod to tzaddik, and then and kuf is the beginning of Malchut. Okay, so what we say is from Yod, this is the outer aspect. Remember, we're egoistic. Now in the outer aspect, we got from Yod all the way to Pe is up here, and then tzadi is Yesod here. So from Yod to tzadi is 9 sephirot, and then when Yesod unifies itself with Malchut, it's called tzaddik. It's called tzadi. That's basically what it's telling us here. So when Yesod uses Malchut, it's defined as tzaddik, as righteous. Because the 9 sephirot of Zeir Anpin that are from Yod to tzaddik, and kuf is the beginning of Malchut, which consists of 4 sephirot, kuf, reshin, tov, which we've been studying in the last few lessons. When these 2 sephirot, Malchut and Yesod, unify, kuf joins with the tzadi, and like we mentioned, Yesod is called now tzaddik, a righteous. And this is why the Creator said, or replied to the letter tzadi, you are tzaddik, right? That means that you are Yesod of Zeir Anpin, and you are tzaddik in me. For remember, Bina is tzadi. For Abba Ve'ima are forever joined, so as to pour down that light of mercy to the lower ones, right? However, it says here basically that what's the letter that follows is the kuf. And what's the matter with kuf, reshin, tov? These letters are really close to what is called the word of tuma, the word of imperfection, the word of basically a word that needs to be redeemed by our actions. Yesod Zeir Anpin includes itself in Malchut in the form of the letter kuf, in the word tzaddik, with this word tzaddik. When Malchut is included in Yesod as tzaddik, it is designated by the letter nun, for nun is Gevurah of Zeir Anpin, and the Yod Keter Chaf is Chokmah, Lamed is Bina, and Mem and Nun Gevurah. Basically, what you need to understand is this. So, what it says is that when Malchut is included in Yesod, so you have tzaddik, because the tzadi with a K, with a kuf is tzaddik, okay, righteous, and then it is designated by the letter nun. You have here the letter nun. For the nun is Gevurah of Zeir Anpin. Where's the nun here? You're gonna find the nun. The nun is gonna be Gevurah, which is this one here of Zeir Anpin, and the Chaf is going to be Chokmah, and then the Lamed is gonna be in Bina. So here we're gonna see Bina. We're gonna see the Nun as Geburah. We're gonna see the Yod as Keter, as we mentioned. And we're gonna see the Mem, which is this one right here, as Chesed, okay? When Zeir Anpin grows and becomes, bigger, meaning because it's filled with the light, the Sefirot of Chesed, Geburah, and Tifareh becomes Sefirot Chokmah, Bina, Da'at. So it's like these three Sefirot that you see here, Chesed, Geburah, and Tifareh, it's like they go up, and then you have Chokmah, Bina, and the Sephirah that is not counted, right? Because what's the Sephirah? Is Da'at. In this way, Geburah becomes Bina, as we mentioned. Then Zeir Anpin becomes small once again. Bina also becomes small and becomes and it becomes Geburah. Why? Because they're in the same column. So Geburah rises to Bina, Chesed rises to Chokmah, and Tifareh to that. But when the Zeir Anpin is in a small state, then Bina here is Geburah. The letter tzadi, as we mentioned before, consists of the letters Nun and Yod connected back to back, which designate that Malchut is with the properties of the Sephirah Yesod, because Sephirah Yesod is a Yod, okay? Yesod. And the reason they're put back to back, that basically you have the Yod in the back of the Nun, is because in order to symbolize or indicate that the impure forces are clinging to their backs. So they're concealing their backs from strangers because there is a flaw in the hair, the back system. Basically, there's a flaw in the way that they desire to receive the Or Chokmah, the light of wisdom. So this flaw needs to be concealed, and the letter tzadi cannot be used to create a world with its property. And the very shape is an opportunity. The very shape that we have right there of the Nun and the Yod, and it's an opportunity for the impure forces to cling to it. This is why Adam, that was when it was created out of Zeir Anpin and Malchut, when they were joining, as a tzaddik, it's also created consisting of two halves, the male and the female. And these aspects of Adam HaRishon were back to back. So it was male and female, but it was in the properties of back to back, or qualities of back to back. And if the letter tzadi were to argue that in the big stake, in the state of Gadlut, in the presence of Or Chokmah, Zeir Anpin and Malchut unite face to face, it will be told that such connection will not take place, but only during an ascent, only when Geburah Chesed rise to the level of Abba Ve'ima, which is Bina and Chokmah. That's the only, because in that connection, in that level, it is possible, basically, that it is possible for the impure forces to cling more to more of the light. For this reason, the letter tzadi is unworthy of becoming the basis of the foundation of the universe. Okay. Now, after this came another letter, and that letter is the letter Pei. And the letter Pei entered and said, Master of the world, it will be good to create a world with me, for the future liberation of the world is inscribed in me. As the word Pedut, redemption, begins with me. That is, liberation is deliverance from all suffering, and it is therefore fitting to create the world with me. The Creator answered her, though you're fine, the word begins with you and is secretly denoted by you, like a serpent that strikes and hides its head in its body. So a sinner bows his head, hiding from one other's eye, but stretches out his hands to sin. So is the shape of the letter Pei. whose head is hidden inside it. And the Creator also said to the letter ayin that it would be unfitting to create the word, its property, for within it is a property of avon, iniquity. And though ayin tried to object, saying that its properties are contained in the word of anava, humility, the Creator refused nonetheless. So we have two letters there. We got the letter pei and the letter ayin. And the letter pei and the letter ayin, we're still basically in the outer aspects of Zeir Anpin of Atziluth. And these are netzat and hod. Okay, netzat and hod. So we go from tzadi to pei and hod. Now, let's see if I can. All right. So the pei, the letter pei, see this little head or little leg. That's what it's talking about. It bows the head, as in shame for hiding something, but it stretches its arm, to sing. All right, so the letter pei says, basically that pedu begins with me, right? Meaning that the property of pei is contained in what is called liberation, pedut. And the letter pei claims, this is why I'm worthy, because I can liberate, the whole system from this clinging of the evil forces to the Sephirot and suck the light. And indeed, both the Galut, exile, and Geulah, redemption, depend on Malchut. When Malchut has no inner light of Chokmah, the people of Israel are exiled from the land of Israel. For in our world, the land of Israel corresponds to Malchut in the world of Atziluth, the spiritual land of Israel. Okay, so Malchut, the world of Atziluth, is this. So when we're in exile, when we need liberation, we're in exile, we are basically on this red bar down there. So we're in exile. We're not in Atziluth. Atziluth for us is, for Kabbalists, is the land of Israel, the spirituality. Now Israel is Zeir Anpin of Atziluth. Land of Israel is Malchut, Israel is Zeir Anpin of Atziluth. So just as the spiritual world, Israel, which is Zeir Anpin of Atziluth, distances itself from Malchut, and the people of Israel separate and leave their land in the Olam Hazeh in this world. But when the Bnei Israel, the children of Israel, correct their actions, they cause Israel, Zeir Anpin, to fill the Malchut with its light. The land of Israel is filled with light, and it builds his light and unites with her face to face. And the result is redemption and liberation and return to the land of Israel. And in the world of branches, that happens in the physical realm by the people of Israel returning to the land of Israel, the physical land of Israel as well. Okay. The light from Zeir Anpin that fills Malchut descends from Sephirot, Netzat, and Hod, which is the ayin and the pei, in Zeir Anpin. And these are for the outer aspects of Zeir Anpin, remember. So Chokmah of Malchut closes in Netzat, and Bina of Malchut closes in Hod. So what we see is the letters ayin pei are Netzat and Hod of Zeir Anpin, and the Chokmah of Malchut, which is gonna be around here, and closes in Netzach, and Bina of Malchut closes in Hod. So in this system, we're gonna see this. Let's pretend that this Malchut is this whole tree of life. So what you see is that Chokmah and Bina are gonna clothe themselves basically with this lower level down here. Okay, but that's gonna be happening down here in the Malchut of Atziluth. The letter P, which is a Sephirah Hot in Zeir Anpin, said that is the best letter, or is the best suitable letter to create the world, because the light of Chokmah that this letter brings redemption to the entire world, and comes from the P all the way to P, basically from all the way to P to Malchut. And this is the word pedut. This is P all the way to top, right? Pedut. And this is says, that's why I can bring complete redemption. By receiving from Bina, by receiving the properties of mercy, Malchut then merits redemption. Bina transcends its own properties and joins with Malchut. As a result, the light of Hasidim, Malchut then receives the light of Chokmah. So Abba and Ima join this light of mercy, which is in Bina, envelops Chokmah, is given to Zeir Anpin, and in that way given to Malchut. And when that happens, Malchut acquires the properties of bestowal from Bina. However, there are some restrictions that are imposed in the reception of the lights, mostly because of the left side. The left side always brings restriction, right? And that's why the letter P thought that since the light of Bina enters it, and not Nesach, which is ayin, it is very suited to be used to create a world. But when we look, all the corrections need to be done. And now, so it looks like we're jumping subject, but we're not. All the corrections are done in what is called 6,000 years of the world, until the end of correction, which is Gamar HaTikun. And because of this correction may not be that the P is promising that this 6,000 years of correction can be done quicker with it. This is considered an incomplete correction. It's supposed to be Gamar, the Gamar complete correction. It's considered incomplete, and that's why the impure forces still have some kind of presence after this liberation. And this is why the light may not be received by the words of Biyah, and that's why it stops basically, because let me go to this graph here. It'll be better to understand, because here below the Haragalim, which is legs in Hebrew, below these parts of the word of Biyah, that's where the evil or impure forces are clinging, right? So the parsa is Malchut that ascended to Bina in order to restrict the diffusion of that reception of light to those parts that are located below Bina. And basically Malchut is here, and he created that parsa here, so the light will not come down here, because these are egoistic desires. This system down here is not ready yet to receive the light, because if it receives the light, it will break the system, or it will basically create chaos. So as a consequence of Adam's attempt to receive the light under the parsa anyway, that's the sin of Adam, which is like, I'm still gonna use these egoistic forces. Impurity slipped to Malchut, in which it is said that the serpent appeared before Eve, which is Chava, which is a female part of Zeir Anpin, right, Malchut, and brought impurity to her, That's based on Talmud Shabbat 146. This impurity will only be corrected at the end of correction. The thing is that the absence of the upper light gives somehow the capability to discerning good from evil. And this capability to discerning good and evil in Malchut creates a flaw, and that flaw is called tears. Meaning that it says here, 2 tears fall into a vast sea from the 2 eyes of Chokmah and Bina that are concealed from all. So these tears are basically not only the notes suffering, but also the notes, that there's absence of light. The 2 eyes are Chokmah and Bina, and the tears are the flaw in them for the presence of the impure forces that appear in this Sephirot as a result of the sin of Adam. This also led to the ruin. This is the secret behind these letters. This led to the destruction of the 2 temples as well. And these tears in Malchut eyes will only dry up at the end of correction, Gamal Hatikun, when death disappears from the world and all the light shines in Chokmah and Bina. So the letter Pet was told, though you bring liberation, Pedut, redemption, with your light, your redemption is not complete, right? It's incomplete. So it's imperfect because all the individual corrections are gonna be imperfect, and they come and go, right? Today we're good, tomorrow we're not. Today we have performed teshuvah, tomorrow we're not. And this is like the 2 temples. We have one, it got destroyed, and we have another one, and it got destroyed. And this is because there's another property for another quality in this letter, and it's the property of Pesha. Pesha is transgression. Pedut is redemption. So the letter Pe is not sufficient or perfect enough in order to complete redemption like it's supposed to. And since this property of Pesha is concealed, the force of the serpent is still present in it. It will be there, deceiving people and leading them to death. And it is impossible to kill it. Okay, just as the snake bites and is immediately hides its head in itself, similar is the head of the letter Pe, as we see here. This is the head, the letter Pe, right? It's almost like a calf, right? But it has a head going down underneath, right? So immediately hides its head. The serpent immediately hides its head in itself, which makes it impossible to kill it. And the only way that we can kill the serpent, the Nahash, is by striking the head, the Rosh, right? This is why the letter Pe is unsuitable for the creation of the world. Now the letter ayin represents Hod of Zeir Anpin of Atziluth. The Bina of the word of Atziluth is called Ima Ila'ah. Ima Ila'ah means superior or supernal mother. And also, Bina is called Anava. Anava means modesty, humility. Anava is not written with the Aleph, it's written with the ayin. Okay? So make sure you understand that. Okay? Anava is with ayin. The Sephirah Nes of Zeir Anpin, which is designated by the letter ayin, as I mentioned, goes into Malchut with its light and ascend to Bina, and in there it receives the adornments of Bina, right? Bina closes into Nesach of of Zeir Anpin, which is here the Pei. But because the letter Pei has a quality of transgression, Pesha is concealed in Netzach. The creator refused to create a word with the property of this letter, the letter Pei. Two words render the meaning of the word transgression. Transgression in Hebrew is Pesha and Avon. However, transgression is the main concentrated letter Pei for Malchut Zeir Anpin, connects into Sephirah Hod of Zeir Anpin. Because of the sin of Adam, the klifot, these shells, the impure forces, connect to Malchut of Zeir Anpin, but this Netzach, which is the letter Pei, is a property of Zeir Anpin itself, and the impure forces cannot connect to it. As it is written in the Talmud, this is in Baba Kama, says that even Netzach is subject to klifot clinging to it. You know, this flaw, says, cling to Malchut Zeir Anpin, but Netzach of Zeir Anpin is a property of Zeir Anpin itself, and impure forces cannot cling to it. Yet, when we read the Talmud, that's what make sure I read it right. When we read the Talmud in Baba Kama, it says that even Netzach is subject to klifot cling to it. So there's a flaw. The ability of the impure forces to cling into Netzach is called transgression. So it's only through transgression that they can cling to it, right? If it's not pure, then there's a transgression, and then the word Avon, which is not Pesha, indicates that Netzach is pure and direct, and that the transgression is caused by its connection with Sephirah Hod. Okay, so the connection with the ayin, which is Avon, and Avon we mentioned is related almost like if it was kind of like it's not a level of a sin, but it's a sin that has to do with haughtiness, to be really proud, or basically in psychology we would call it probably self-centered, narcissism, and things like that. Okay, now the reason for the creator to turn to the letters Pei and ayin at the same time instead of just one letter at a time is that the Netzach and Hod are like two body parts. They're like two legs. Okay, this is why they both appear before the creator in order to do their request, but the Zohar clarifies each of them one property at a time. Okay, and this is basically what's happening in this conversation with these two letters and the creator. So we have covered this a very long article about the letters, but I hope you guys are getting the most of it. I'm gonna stop here with the letter Pei and ayin. The next lesson is gonna be the letter Samek and Nun, and hopefully we call the Mem and Lamed, and the letter Kaf and Yod, so we can jump into the inner aspects, the inner letters, which are from Aleph to Het. Okay, so I'll see you in the next lesson. Like always, these lessons are free. You don't have to pay for them. The only way that you can pay is by giving it a like, share it with somebody else that might be interested and may not have the money to pay for classes like this, and subscribe. If you subscribe, if you give a like, somehow the algorithms of YouTube is going to present this video to more and more people, so you're helping somehow to disseminate these lessons to other people without even knowing them. Okay, so I hope you have enjoyed it, and see you in the next lesson. Shalom.